Have you ever really thought about how animals talk to each other? I mean, not just with simple barks or chirps, but with super detailed, specific instructions? Well, today we're diving into one of the most incredible forms of communication on the entire planet, the honeybee's famous waggle dance. And we're going to explore this fascinating discovery that shows how the audience can literally change the message itself.
Okay, so first a quick refresher. The waggle dance is way more than just a cute wiggle. It's an incredibly sophisticated, symbolic language. You see, when a forager bee gets back to the dark hive, she performs this dance to give her sisters a literal map to a great patch of flowers. The angle of her dance tells them the direction to go, relative to the sun, and how long the dance lasts tells them the distance. It's basically a GPS system made of pure movement. Pretty amazing, right?
Now, you'd think a system that's so critical for survival would be absolutely perfect every single time. But scientists started noticing something odd. Sometimes the dance was crystal clear, but other times, not so much. And that led to a huge question. Was the bee just getting lazy, or was something else going on here?
All right, so to figure this all out, we first need to understand what a perfect dance even looks like. This is the gold standard of bee communication, the kind of dance that happens under absolutely ideal conditions. So picture this. A forager bee flies back to the hive, totally loaded with nectar. She's immediately surrounded by this eager crowd of her sisters, all touching her with their antennae, totally tuned in and ready to get this crucial information. This is when the magic happens. In this perfect scenario, the dance is incredibly precise. I mean, the movements are tight, the pads are super repeatable, and the angle and the duration are totally consistent. And we can see this for ourselves in the evidence from videos S1 and S6. The dance is just packed with high-quality information, delivering a signal that is clear and has absolutely no ambiguity.
But that perfect signal has a flip side. Researchers were watching the same bees performing the same dance for the same food source, but the quality would sometimes just plummet. It was like a glitch in the bee matrix.
So what was the key difference? It was the audience. Now imagine that same forager coming back, but this time, the dance floor is pretty much empty. Nobody's paying attention. She's basically dancing for an empty room.
And when that happens, the signal just degrades. It gets all fuzzy. The directions become imprecise. And you can see in the evidence from videos S2 and S5 that the bee's path starts to wander all over the place, almost like she's looking for someone to watch. The information content just drops like a rock. It's the same bee, same destination, but a completely different, much messier message.
So this is the central mystery, right? It's clearly not about the bee's ability or her knowledge. The information is right there in her head. So why does the quality of her dance depend so much on who's actually watching? This is the exact question scientists decided they had to answer.
To solve this puzzle, the researchers had to do more than just watch. They needed to design an experiment where they could actually control the one thing they suspected was causing all this, the audience itself.
And they followed a classic scientific path, which is really cool. First, they observed all that natural variation we just talked about. Second, they came up with a clear hypothesis. The audience's presence and attention directly affect the quality of the dance. And third, they designed a brilliant experiment to put it to the test.
So how in the world do you control a bee's audience? Very carefully. As you can see in video S7, the researchers use this gentle suction device called an aspirator to carefully remove the follower bees from around the dancer, right in the middle of her performance. This let them see exactly what happens to the dance the moment its audience disappears.
But they took it a step further, which I think is fascinating. Maybe it's not just about having other bees nearby. What if it's about the quality of their attention, you know? Does the dancer actually know if her audience is listening, or if they're just zoning out?
And this comparison just brilliantly illustrates their findings. They compared dances that were performed for two totally different groups. When the audience was made up of young bees who aren't foragers yet, video S3 shows they just completely ignore the dancer. And the result? A low-precision, fuzzy dance. But when that same dancer performed for interested adult bees who followed her every move, video S4 shows she snapped right back to that crisp, high-precision signal. It's incredible. So, this experiment led to a really clear and powerful conclusion, a true revelation about how communication works, not just for bees, but maybe for all of us.
And there it is. That's the central finding of the study, stated as plainly as possible. It's not the dancer alone who determines how good the signal is. The audience plays an active, absolutely critical role in shaping the message itself.
Now this is where things get really profound. This discovery about bees tells us something truly fundamental about the very nature of communication itself.
Because this is so much bigger than just insects in a hive. It reveals that communication isn't a one-way broadcast, from a speaker to a passive listener. It's a dynamic, living, two-way process.
Just think about that powerful idea for a second. You could have the most important, world-changing message, but if no one is listening, or if they're not listening well, the quality and the impact of that message are fundamentally weakened. The signal's value depends entirely on its reception.
It really is a two-way street. The speaker, or in this case, the dancer, creates and sends the message, sure, but they are also constantly adjusting their performance based on feedback they get from the listener. And the listener, the audience, isn't just a passive receiver at all. Their attention, or their lack of attention, actively shapes the quality of the very message they're getting.
And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway from this amazing study. From a beehive to a boardroom, effective communication is a partnership. It absolutely requires not just a clear sender, but an active, engaged receiver. One simply cannot function without the other.
So it kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. These bees show us that when no one is paying attention, the signal itself just breaks down. And it really makes you wonder, in our own world of constant distraction, how many important messages are getting lost? Not because they weren't sent, but because no one was truly there to receive them.